Welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. Joining us now, a regular to talk about. We'll talk about everything, all sports. But we got the NBA draft coming up, and had the finals. Doc Rivers, Chris Mannix is here. What's up, man?
I'm ready to talk about the draft. Is Boschetti ready to weigh in on some of the picks?
Yeah. Now, Mike, who do you think will be the number one pick coming in the draft?
I don't know. You know, it's
I mean, I'm sure.
Do you know what draft we're talking about?
yes, the NBA.
Yeah, got it.
So, who do you think is
on top of it?
Who do you think is the best player in college right now?
College, I'm not. I like the NBA bet. I'm not really sure about the college.
Well, let's make it easy for him, Marty. Alex Len or Nerlens Noel?
Okay.
I'm not. Oh wait a minute. Oh, the Globetrotters. I know them, but.
So you're saying the Harlem Globetrotters will be the first pick?
Yeah, definitely. They've been picked.
All right, that's good. That's good. But seriously, who now? You just threw out those two guys. It's one of those two guys.
It's going to be one of those two guys. Cleveland, I was on the phone as of an hour and a half ago. They're still going back and forth. They're trying to trade the pick as well. It's not one of those drafts, Artie, where the top of the draft, there's not a LeBron James. There's not a Dwight Howard.
It's an uneventful kind of draft.
Right. There's a lot of ambiguity at the top of the draft this year. So they're trying to trade it, but they're asking for a lot from it. They tried to get LaMarcus Aldridge out of Portland. They tried to get Kevin Love out of Minnesota. I think ultimately they'll take it tomorrow. They'll use it tomorrow. But they have not decided between Alex Len and Nerlens Noel at number one. So two centers.
Yeah, Cleveland's in good shape.
And Nerlens Noel, there's so many question marks. I mean, he's coming off the knee injury. When they weighed him in at the combine, wasn't he just like 209, like 6'11", 209? He's just sounds frail.
Not all that concerning though, because I mean he plays athletically, and the days of the big man are gone. I mean
it seems that way.
It's not like there aren't the Hakeems and the Shaqs and the all the other big men.
If they existed,
Patrick Ewing.
They would dominate the league right now, right?
Durant's as close as you get.
Well, I mean, look, Dwight Howard is probably the most dominant big man out there right now, but he's even still, more of an athletic big. He plays.
And he crapped the bed this year anyway.
He did. He's a lot of drama around him, obviously, coming into this offseason. But I don't think Noel, the size is an issue because his lower body, I was at the combine where they measured him out, his lower body is big. And the biggest concern of NBA teams is if you have like that skinny lower body, you can't really fill that out. You're either born with the big legs or you're not. Yao Ming is a perfect example of it. He had tree trunks for his legs. Yeah. Sticks up here, nothing in the upper body. But you can build that up over time. Noel's got a pretty good base, so they're not really worried about him putting on weight. They're worried that the fact that he pretty much sucks offensively. He doesn't have any kind of game.
That's a big worry.
Offensively. So that's sort of a concern. Is he, a better version of Ben Wallace, if you will? A great defender, but nothing on offense.
Well, that and he's, coming off the injury that just sidelined Derrick Rose for an entire season.
Yeah, that's less of a concern too, though. I mean, an ACL tear. I mean, Derrick Rose that was just a drama from day one. But
then he's got the full season now.
Yeah, he'll be back. I've heard he'll be back by Christmas. Teams that have examined him say, it sounds right around Christmas time he'll be back. He's also a big man too. It's much easier for big men to overcome an ACL injury than it is for a guard who plays so explosively, who plays so dynamically. Big men, they're more grounded. Yeah, they're more grounded. And even though he jumps a lot to block shots, it's not. It's less. It's easier, I would think, to come back than it is for Derrick Rose.
Change of direction.
Yeah, not the same thing.
Part of the game.
So Cleveland is a team that if they play their cards right, could be a contender in the next couple of years.
Well,
right?
What they're going to do and what they are doing is look. If you look at how they're assembling this roster, Artie, they've got the great point guard in Kyrie Irving. They've got DWade as the 2 spot. It was the 4th overall pick last year. You've got Tristan Thompson, who was the 4th overall pick a couple of years ago. Whoever comes in at number 1, Nerlens Noel or Alex Len, and all of a sudden you got this big spot at small forward. And who's out there as a free agent next summer at small forward? And that's LeBron James. And I'm telling you.
You think that's a real deal? As an NBA insider.
That is a real possibility.
You're saying that
absolutely.
He might come back the hero.
That is a real possibility. Look, the big thing with LeBron James is that next year
he wants attention.
Next year's he's going to opt out of his contract next year. He absolutely will opt out. He'll be a free agent next summer, if for no other reason than to re-sign for 5 more years and get more guaranteed money.
Right.
The key for LeBron next year is what DWade looks like. If DWade looks like the old DWade, where he's averaging 25 a game, he's giving you 75 to 80 games during the season, looks like the old Flash, who was an MVP candidate for years. LeBron's going to come back. He and DWade have a close bond, much closer than he and Chris Bosh.
Right.
There's a tightness there that would make LeBron want to come back. But if Dwayne Wade is breaking down, if he's a fragile guy, if he looks like the guy we saw in the playoffs, where he's good one day, he's bad the next day, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Yeah. LeBron's going to become a free agent, and he's going to step back. He's going to look at this and say, all right, do I want to sign for the next 3 to 5 years with this team, which is going to have, my sidekick's going to be Dwayne Wade? Yeah. Or do I go back to Cleveland, be the savior again, and have Kyrie Irving, maybe the best point guard in the draft, and all those other young players I was telling you about? I mean, there's a big, it's a very attractive situation in Cleveland.
He still has a house back there.
He still lives in Akron. Yeah. Look, and from what I've been told, they've mended some fences there. The owner, you remember the owner put out that letter, written in Comic Sans, this just scathing letter. He's totally backed off that since then. There have been some inroads made as far as repairing that relationship between LeBron James and the Cavs franchise. Remember, it's a new GM now. Mike Brown is back as coach, but I don't think that would stop LeBron from coming back there. It's all about the roster at this point. And the Cavs might have a better roster than Miami for LeBron to go play with.
And Irving is the real deal, that guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. He might be the best point guard in the NBA at the end of next season.
Wow.
I'm a believer.
So now Wade is going to be 32 next year.
They're going to be 32 next year, right?
So that's
an old 32 Artie too. He's he did those Nike commercials where it's like get knocked down 9 times, get up 10. I mean, he used the floor as a trampoline half the time for early in his career. So he's an older version of that age, and I think he could be worn down.
That'd be fascinating. That really would be. I mean, and again, he might have lost some hunger. He's got 3 rings, Wade, and
LeBron is what, 28, so he's a few years younger than him. So LeBron's got to take. Dwayne Wade's not going anywhere. Dwayne Wade wants to retire.
Be in Miami. He's a lifer there. Why not?
But LeBron's already been a mercenary. He's already gone to another team. Like, that ship has sailed about staying with one team your entire career. He's got to look at this pragmatically, and he's got to say, what gives me the best chance to win a championship or multiple championships towards the end. LeBron's proven that he can be cold.
But when you say, absolutely. But when you say he lives in Akron, what does that mean? He doesn't live in Akron.
No, he's got a palatial estate.
I'm sure
it's
a big.
Listen, it's I could have a zip code.
Me and you could have palatial estates in Akron.
It's not downtown Akron. He doesn't have a 1-bedroom.
Yeah. So you say he spends more time in Akron than in Miami?
I don't know exactly there, but off season he spends there.
Does his mom still live there?
His mom still lives there. Does a lot of charity races out there. Bike races, things like that.
When is Delonte West going to start paying some rent with his mother?
That's a fair point.
Here's a guy who just takes. I mean, start paying some bills. What is Delonte West's deal? I mean, is he?
He's trying to get back in the NBA.
He's a mental case, though. Right?
He's I don't know if he's officially been diagnosed as bipolar, but something along those lines. He's a little screwy. He's trying to get back in the NBA. He's working out in Texas right now, trying to get back in.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Cleveland needs something after those 2 broads were in that basement for so long. They give those chicks something to
need a boost.
Yeah, they need a boost. It's not just a lifelong McDonald's.
It could happen though. It's not as crazy as it sounds. I mean, I know it's
listen, man. You're an insider. We're giving it to you. What about Doc Rivers? I love Doc Rivers. I've always been a fan of his.
Everybody does.
Now Clippers, man, with Doc Rivers, that's pretty attractive.
It makes them better, and I think one thing Doc will do is that he'll repair the relationship between Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. That was strained.
Is that really bad?
That was bad. That was
Why?
bad. Chris Paul likes to control everything. As we've seen with this whole process. I mean, he likes to be in control on the court, off the court. And Blake Griffin, as his star has grown and he's become more of an alpha male himself, he got a little tired of it last year. He got a little tired of the Chris Paul show throughout the course of last season. Not to say it can't be repaired, but I think Doc Rivers coming in is certainly going to help that. He's a player's coach. He understands the mentality of guys in the locker room. I think he's going to be a great fit with that respect. He's a great play caller. I think he's a slightly better play caller than Vinny Del Negro is. But look, the Clippers won 56 games last year. I don't think that Doc Rivers all of a sudden makes them a championship contender. I think Oklahoma City is better than them next year. I think San Antonio, as long as they re-sign Tiago Splitter, they're a better team than them next year. I think Golden State is a better team than them next year.
So it's not a guarantee to the conference finals.
They can get to the conference finals. Yeah. They should have gotten the conference finals this year.
Right.
If Blake Griffin didn't turn his ankle, this is a different series against Memphis, and Memphis cruised all the way to the conference finals because of Russell Westbrook's injury. So, they can get there. Sure, they've got the talent for it, but I just don't see them winning a championship, not with that personnel. The difference is they've got a guy named Eric Bledsoe who has been a real he's a terrific young point guard. And they've been trying to hold on to him out of fear that Chris Paul was going to leave and they need to replace him in the backcourt. Now that Chris Paul is going to re-sign, Eric Bledsoe is a luxury for them. Yeah. And they can trade him. There's a lot of teams out there that are salivating over getting Eric Bledsoe. If they can get an Al Jefferson type, a Paul Millsap type, maybe Aaron Aflalo out of Orlando, if they can get a starter for Eric Bledsoe, that's going to go a long way towards pushing them towards that title goal.
And a lot of these kids, I feel like I'm 90 years old, but a lot of these these guys in the NBA now, before they get rings, they do these huge ad campaigns. Both Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, it seems like they're worried about making funny commercials before anything. Like they think they're on Saturday Night Live, those two guys.
They all want to be.
Yeah, they're doing sketch comedy and commercials. It probably takes up a bunch of time.
Yeah.
To me, get a ring or two first, you know?
Greatest thing Blake Griffin ever did was jump over that Kia. All of a sudden, it made him. Now we're just flooded with Kia commercials. It's insane.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we need.
Yeah.
But
makes me want to buy a Kia.
What do you think about the Celtics, though? We were talking last night. Rondo, is that his team now? A lot of people say no, he doesn't have the attitude to have it.
No, it's his team. You know, it's been his team the last couple of years. They've transitioned away from the big three, really ever since 2009 when Garnett got hurt in the playoffs. It became Rondo's team, and I think it'll stay Rondo's team going forward. The question is, what are they going to have to do to build around him? They're this close, inches away from a full-scale rebuilding process. I do not expect Kevin Garnett to be on the team next year. I do not expect Paul Pierce to be on the team next year. I think they'll find a way to unload these guys and start rebuilding around young players.
What could they get
namely
for those
Rondo.
guys? Could they get something valuable for those guys?
Brooklyn really wants Kevin Garnett. I mean, they would probably sell off, Billy King's firstborn child to get Kevin Garnett out there. Right. I mean, they've got a huge hole at power forward at that spot. They've also got no heart. I mean, they had no heart last year.
Yeah.
And Kevin Garnett brings heart. He brings that fire to the locker room. He would light a fire to that entire team.
He's a little nutty, but he's
nutty, but he's friendly with Jason Kidd too. They were teammates on the 2000 Olympic team, so they've got some history there. I think that would be a good fit for them. They don't really have a lot of assets, Brooklyn. They might be able to give you some draft picks. Maybe you get a trade exception, but Boston doesn't care at this point. They want to accrue as many first-round picks as they can. They want to accrue as many trade assets as they can. They know the next few years are probably going to be pretty rough. They're not a title contender anymore, and they can't be with this roster.
How long is it before Jay-Z is the NBA commissioner?
I'm waiting for the first step is before he represents everybody.
And he's got Durant now.
Because at this point,
unbelievable.
And he's not even really. I mean, I guess now he's officially an agent, but really everybody's going to him for marketing. They want him to be the marketing arm.
Absolutely.
For them. Yeah. So he's going to take over the business. I mean, this guy. Everybody wants to associate with themselves with him, and as long as he's associated with CAA, because everybody's like, all right, we're going to go sign with Jay-Z. Jay doesn't know what he's talking about. It's Jay-Z plus the reps at CAA, who are like the best, some of the best in the business.
The smart move was to, you're going to start a management business. Let me get guys who know what they're doing, and I'll be the face of it and the PR thing with it. And, CAA, of course, they're legendary for knowing what they're doing. I don't know. It just seems like he moves from spot to spot in the world of sports, and specifically the NBA.
Well, did you see how much he actually owned the Nets? I mean, the Nets, it's like $300,000.
Yeah, nothing.
It was $300,000. They sold his share for $300,000. They made him the face of the franchise, and that was money I think we could all kind of put together and buy into that team.
Just not a Russian billionaire. Teach me about hoops.
Yeah, he just wanted a part of the franchise, and they were thrilled to have him there. He helped change the culture out there with what he did.
And listen, I think PJ Cutler, I think that was a little premature getting rid of him.
No.
You think? You don't agree?
No, I thought PJ's time had come.
Got to the playoffs? I mean, I don't thought they were going to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, but that's a $100 million roster. You better get your ass to the playoffs.
You think so? You think that was a foregone conclusion?
Yeah.
The Nets getting to the playoffs?
Look, they quit on Avery Johnson towards the end of the year, especially Darren Williams. He didn't want to play for Avery there. I just think a breath of fresh air was all they really needed. I mean, no disrespect on PJ, but I just think he's better equipped to be an assistant coach in the NBA. He did a fine job, but I knew from the All-Star break on, he wasn't coming back.
Interesting.
They were set on that.
I don't know. John, what do you think?
I don't know what to think about that. But I want to know more coming up in the draft. I want to know more about Alex Len, comparing him to Nerlens Noel. Bigger guy.
More of a prototypical
Why is he
center.
more? Yeah, right. And they're so few and far between these days. Why is he such a wild card?
Well, I mean, he's a plodding, big white center. That's kind of, and how many of those guys do you remember panning out in the NBA? I mean, it's sort of going
not a lot in the last 30 years.
No, you going on past history, and you look, can he be Zydrunas Ilgauskas? Maybe. Will he turn out to be Vitaly Potapenko? Maybe. But
Mark Eaton.
No, Mark Eaton had no offensive game, but he can turn out to be a good player. But I think teams see star potential in Nerlens Noel. They see a guy that if they can just teach him some offense, they could turn him into a low post player. He can turn out to be an all-star every single year. I don't know that we see that in Alex Len. I think we see a serviceable 15-year career 5-man. But if you're drafting that high, sometimes you just kind of want to reach for the star and reach for that guy that can be a difference maker, a franchise changer.
Yeah,
and I think Nerlens Noel has that upside.
Yeah, get it all if you're that high. Yeah.
With that methodology, that line of thinking, reach for the star, that's kind of surprises me that Trey Burke isn't higher in the draft, in the projections in the draft. Why has he slipped, I guess? Why is he so low?
I don't know if he slipped per se, but look at the teams that are drafting at the top. I mean, Noel, Cleveland, they have a point guard. Same thing with Washington, number 3. Bobcats, number 4. They've got Kemba Walker. They're kind of committed with him. He could go. Trey Burke, I suppose, could go to 5 to Phoenix, but I have not heard his name linked with the Suns. But from 6 on, from the New Orleans Pelicans on down, Trey Burke is in the mix. He could go as high as number 6 to the Pelicans. They have a need for a point guard at that spot. So I don't know if it's necessarily Trey Burke a slip. I just think the top of the draft, you don't really need him. Orlando does, but I don't think Orlando wants to reach that high for Trey Burke. Trey Burke is a little on the undersized side of it. He's been dynamic. He had a terrific last year with Michigan, but I think they want someone more with higher upside, I think, than Trey Burke.
Does anybody in the Charlotte organization even call Michael Jordan for suggestions tomorrow?
I think I still think he has too much input in what goes on.
Do they want to call him? That's my point.
That's a
they
scary
don't want
spot.
to call.
That's a scary spot.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
How about they get screwed again? Like they have another crappy year and they want it with outside of the top 3. They lose the lottery.
What is happening? Yeah, it's cursed.
I don't know. Their GM is a smart guy. Rich Cho is a smart guy, but like we were just we're alluding to, we don't know who's making the pick out there.
It's funny. The direct opposite. Michael Jordan in the front office is the direct opposite of what he was on the court. He's like he's just a curse.
Yeah.
Everything he touches goes to hell. And on the court, everything was gold.
Yeah.
I think it's smart to bring in Patrick Ewing as an assistant.
Well, they're friends.
Maybe I think that's a good move.
Look, I think I think it's a good move. He's an assistant coach there. I think Steve Clifford, the head coach, is terrific. I mean, he was one of those assistants that deserved a job over the last few years. I think he's a great pickup there. And those two guys, why I think they're going to go for a big man, either Alex Len or Noel, whoever's on the board there at number 4. Steve Clifford has a great reputation for developing big men. He had as much to do with developing Dwight Howard in Orlando as anybody did. He was very influential there. Stan Van Gundy told me that.
Yeah, but a head coach is known for developing guys.
Yeah.
Is that a guy who wins championships? Like just developing to me, that's something that like a scout could do or an assistant coach.
No, because Greg Popovich does it. He's probably one of the standard bearers for it. I mean, look at what he's done with some of the
stuff. Amazing.
He does. Oh, he's excellent at all things. But what he's done with some of the guys that were picked in the back end of the first round. Remember, Tony Parker was the 28th pick in the draft in 2001. He was way back then. Everybody passed on him.
Boy,
back then.
That was a piece of gold.
And Parker, and Popovich was spectacular in developing him. I mean, he threw his fat to the fire early on. He was hard on him. He developed him over time. And I'm not sure there are 10 coaches in the NBA that could have done that. Look at the guys on the roster now. Danny Green was passed around from team to team early in his career. I mean, they've got Gary Neal, an undrafted free agent they got stuff out of. Tiago Splitter picked 28th in the draft as well several years ago. I mean, lots of guys in that team were not top shelf picks. Ginobili, same thing. He was a second-round pick in his day. So, Popovich has done a great job in identifying their strengths and finding ways to mold them.
Why do you feel like they need to re-sign Tiago Splitter? Because he just does not seem like a dynamic player.
He's not dynamic, and he had a tough go in the finals because they played small. Miami did, and they had to go with LeBron at the 4. So Splitter didn't get a lot of run in the NBA Finals. But we'll look at back at the years the Spurs won championships. Robinson was there next to Duncan for a couple of the titles. Rasho Nesterovic, Nazi Muhammad. Duncan does well when there is a gritty, grinding big man playing alongside him to take pressure off him during the regular season. That's what it's all about. It's all about the regular season. Duncan at 37, almost 38 years old, cannot play 35 minutes a game and be the focal point of the offense and the defense. Splitter takes pressure off him, and he's a much better offensive player, I think, than people give him credit for, because 3 years ago, he was considered one of the best centers in all of Europe. He was playing in Barcelona.
Seriously?
One of the best centers in all of Europe.
He looks like he can't even dunk.
He's had a tough go of it in the NBA. It's been difficult for him first few years, but this year was his best year. He was almost a double-double guy all season long, and and he was good in the Western Conference playoffs. He just didn't shine that much in the NBA Finals.
He's awkward looking.
He's awkward, yeah.
And Danny Green is the kind of guy who needs a good coach right now because he's inconsistent. He can go with. I think with great coaching, he could be an all-star. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, I want to play some of this Paula Dean stuff. Her with Matt Lauer. That's just classic. She's crying. It's amazing. As a comedian, that is just, I'm booking more stand-up dates because of this. And I'm doing an hour on it.